In this segment of the Dusty Rhodes Shoot interview conducted in the year 2000, Dusty talks about his time in championship wrestling from Florida and making his way to Jim Crockett Promotions, basically coming in as the head booker in 1985 and his outlook on the company. And Dusty also mentions the sale of Georgia Championship Wrestling, him being in New York as the sale went through, and actually talking to Vince McMahon Sr. and Jr. during that transaction, and much more. Let's take a listen to what Dusty has to say.
For Jim Crockett. And he had me come that night. And flew from Florida to Eddie, could I go to Starrcade? You always ask permission to leave the territory, to go, to give notice respectfully. But Starrcade was, there was a big event. So I said, yeah, I will. I said, okay. I called Eddie shortly after that. Eddie killed himself for not the reasons that I left, but that was the first time I had ever left him, or left Florida to venture out on my own. And I guess Mercedes, there were more big cars in the parking lot of Jim Crockett's promotion than Vince McMahon had ever seen in one time. Everybody had a Porsche, everybody had Mercedes. I mean, we were rolling in fucking money. We had 2 planes, we had a fucking jet. This is Charlotte, North Carolina, man. We had dreams, we wasn't scared of shit. We went into Capitol Center July the 4th when Vince gave us a building to teach us a lesson. Turned away 5,000 people, had over 19,000 in the Kevin Sullivan's creation, the Tower of Doom, But when you talk about creations, when you talk about one of my favorite creations of all was the War Games. That cage, that idea. I sat in the car with Jimmy. I did a lot of stuff driving down the road like people wrote music. And I created this thing, man, and it came to life. And you see it today, and you're proud. But everybody don't say, how did that get there, How'd the bull rope how did you ever create a fucking bull rope match, So they were movies to me. They were creating movies. It wasn't the guys so much as what I wanted to put on the TV for you to absorb. So we were ahead of our time. We were on a roll. We were hot. And we were drawing money everywhere. We were making money. We were partying. We were flying. People were taking drugs and dope and shit, And it was just, the Robert Earl King song, "The Road Goes On Forever and the Party Never Ends."
Right.
That was us. But it ended. It ended for us. And then then the time went on the downslide.
Before we get into 88 and stuff like that, talk about, there's so much talent from 84 to 88. You had Tully, Wyndham, Magnum, Nikita, Cornette, Midnight. Everybody was there. What was it like working with some of those guys I just mentioned?
Well, and I went in the first day when Crockett brought me in there, right? And I wanted $3,000 instead of 25 to book, because I said I want $500 more than George Scott, because George Scott was the booker for Crockett when he was really doing business. Right. And they thought he was a genius, and he wasn't a genius. Wahoo McDaniel, Johnny Valentine were the geniuses. They thought of their own matches. They thought of their own finishes. They thought of their own angles. He got all the credit.
Right.
So I said, I don't want to make as much money as he did. So Jimmy, that was one of the perks that I said, even if it's $1 more than you pay George Scott, because George Scott was not God as a booker. George Scott was not shit as a booker. Everything that as he booked was done by the guys. The guys, the Steamboats, the Pipers, and all the guys that were there. I walked in to the warehouse for a meeting. Crockett introduced me as Ms. Booker, new head of wrestling operation. The word Booker was thrown out the window, and Booker, to me, I hate the word Booker.
Right.
You're creative. You're executive producer. You're creative person. So I went to my office. James J. Dillon, who was my right hand in Florida. My first assistant booker ever was Jerry Briscoe. James J. Dillon. They started coming in. The Pipers, the Steamboats. They all left. So I said in the meeting, 7 o'clock, there's no card playing. The bullshit stops here. I'm here to make you guys a living, make me a lot of fucking money, make the company even more money. It stops here. You're on time. Same rules we always had, as I had growing up, and I just wanted to respect it. If you don't like a finish, There's no gray area. If it's mine, there's no talking about it. The door is there. Here they come, Steamboat, Piper. They lined up. They left me. There we go now. Just a guy that bought from Florida. Now trying to run a new empire that's just come off of Starcade with Black Bart and Ron Bass. Thank God for them two guys. Dick Slater, they pitched in, you know what I mean?
Right.
They took a shot, they ran, they worked the angles, they worked their ass off, they made some money, but they stood by me, and them guys left. And I never would keep a guy against his will or say, I want to go to New York, I just signed with New York. I would give him a hug, like I said. I heard you heard me tell the story. And I'd say, go on, good luck. You want me to do the job the night? The guy said, no. No, go on. There's no use of prolonging it. So, Starcade got their booking. That talent was, at the time, the best talent Crockett had there. Had the best talent anywhere in the world. It was unreal. And my closeness with Vince Sr., and then with Junior, came into play during that era too. And I knew Junior because of a restaurant meeting with me and Barnett in New York City. I knew the night that he bought Georgia. I knew the night that Barnett started to work for him.
Right.
I was there in the restaurant the night all that shit took place.